I was the fake young master. When the real one was brought back, he was thin and dark. My parents, racked with guilt, offered him compensation. When they finally found him, he stood at the door thin, tanned, and wary. My parents, guilt written all over their faces, tried to make it up to him with gifts and promises. But he sneered, "If you really want to compensate me, give me what's mine, the company." And just like that, every pair of eyes turned to me. "You were never our real son," someone said gently, almost apologetically. "You should return what belongs to him." I smiled, calm and polite. Of course. That same night, I signed every document they placed before me. The next morning, the company's biggest client, the core tech division, and all our distributors announced they'd only work with me. Not the Royland family, not their newly found heir, but me. Panic swept through my parents. They came to me begging for help. I folded my arms and said evenly, "Tell your real son to come and ask me himself, as his former employee." When Jerry first stepped into the mansion, he looked lost among the marble floors and chandeliers. I had just returned from closing the MC deal abroad. My assistant had already given me the rundown in the car. The Roylands had found their long-lost biological son. My heart thudded once, then steadied. Fine. So they found him. I didn't mind sharing. We were a rich family. There was enough for everyone. But the moment Jerry's gaze landed on me, his uncertainty hardened into resentment. "If you want me to come back and accept this family, that's fine," he said. "But he's had my place long enough. It's time he gives it back." He met my eyes defiant. "I don't want anything else, just the company." I chuckled quietly. "I've been running that company for 10 years. Are you sure you can handle it?" That hint of condescension made his face twist with anger. "I can learn. If I had grown up here, I'd be just as good as you." My relatives wasted no time jumping in. "Just give it to him, Alex. He's the true heir." I turned to my parents. My father avoided my gaze, his voice low. "Alex, we owe him. Jerry's had a hard life." My mother clung to Jerry, crying so hard she could barely speak. "Those monsters sold him to some poor village. If we hadn't found him, he'd still be suffering there." She looked at me with tearful eyes. "Alex, please. Just agree to this. We won't let you end up with nothing." I stared at them for a long moment, then smiled faintly. "All right." I gave up everything. I'd always believed that if the real son ever came back, I'd simply step aside. I never wanted to fight. I even had a gift ready for him. But that day showed me how naive I'd been. If they wanted compensation, they could have it all. I called my assistant and had the transfer papers drawn up on the spot. I signed them without hesitation. Jerry clutched the documents like a trophy, hiding his grin against our mother's shoulder. "It's all settled," I said, turning away. "If there's nothing else, I'll go rest." My mother looked up. "Jerry just came home. Stay for dinner." "I'm tired," I said. Jerry's tone turned sharp. "You just don't want to see me, do you? I just got back and you're already treating me like this." Annoyance flickered in my mother's eyes. "Alex, why are you being so difficult?" "I've been on a 20-hour flight," I said flatly. "I'm exhausted." Her expression faltered. She finally seemed to notice the dark circles under my eyes and said nothing more. I went upstairs, shutting out their voices. After my shower, my phone was buzzing with family group messages. I glanced at them, my lips curving in a cold smile. "Jerry's back. When's the welcome banquet? Make it big. You can announce the company he transferred to. By the way, if Alex isn't the real son, he probably shouldn't stay at the house anymore. And what about his engagement? That'll have to be rethought, right?" I ignored most of it, but that last line made my stomach tighten. The Roylands had an arranged engagement with the Vaughn family. If I wasn't a Royland anymore, what did that mean for Amelia Vaughn, my fiancée? The chat kept buzzing. I exited quietly. If I wasn't one of them anymore, there was no reason to stay. Still, I needed to speak to Amelia and settle things properly. The next morning, while Jerry went out with my parents, I packed a few essentials and prepared to move into my own place. Amelia called me early that morning. "Alex, we need to talk about our engagement," she said quietly. I had known her for over 10 years. I could already hear the real meaning behind her words. My voice came out cold. "You heard I'm no longer the Royland heir, and now you want to end things, right?" She didn't answer. Her silence stretched for 10 long seconds. All the confirmation I needed. "Fine," I said evenly. "But engagements between families aren't broken on impulse. The Vaughns and Roylands should discuss this together, don't you think?" A pause. Then she murmured, "All right," and hung up. For some reason, I felt lighter. For a decade, I'd poured everything into the Royland family, pushing their company to heights they'd never imagined. The engagement with the Vaughns was meant to be a win for both sides. I'd always treated Amelia with respect, believed we were more than just an arranged pair. I thought she saw me as her partner. Turns out, I was just part of a business deal that expired the moment my bloodline didn't match. I shook my head, zipped my suitcase, and turned to leave. But just as I reached the door, my parents and Jerry came home. Money really was magic. The nervous boy from yesterday was gone. Today, Jerry was decked out in a tailored suit and a smug grin. His skin was still tanned, but that would fade soon enough. He froze when he saw the suitcase in my hand. "Brother, are you leaving?" I nodded. "It's better for everyone if I move out." His expression twisted. "Leaving the moment I come home? Do you hate me that much?" My mother's voice sharpened. "Alex, what's gotten into you? You've been ignoring Jerry since he arrived." I looked her dead in the eye. "Come on, Mrs. Royland. You were all discussing how to throw me out in the group chat last night. I'm just saving you the trouble." Her confidence faltered. That was just talk. "You're misunderstanding us. The Royland family can still support you. Are you trying to embarrass us like this?" I laughed softly. "Really? Then why did the Vaughns already call off the engagement this morning? I gave you everything, and now I'm doing what you wanted. Or would you rather people think you had twins?" Her face drained of color. Jerry jumped in quickly, trying to smooth things over. "Brother, you shouldn't talk to Mom like that. She means well." He tilted his head, that sly little smile tugging at his mouth. "Besides, the place you're moving to wasn't that bought with Royland money? If you really want to cut ties, maybe you shouldn't." I stopped and turned to face him fully. My stare shut him up before he could finish. "The money I earn is mine," I said coldly. "You might want to figure out whether the Roylands support me, or if it's the other way around. Learn fast, Jerry. You'll need it." Then I walked out. My mother called my name, but I didn't look back. They forced my hand today. Tomorrow, they'd be the ones asking for mercy. Sure enough, I hadn't even driven far when my father called. "Alex," he said, his tone heavy, "they don't understand, but you do. Can't you just leave quietly? Stop stirring things up. Tomorrow is your brother's welcome banquet. You have to show up." I only chuckled before hanging up. My assistant, who'd followed me since the early years, stood waiting outside my car. "Mr. Royland, wherever you go, we go." Every member of my team chose to follow me. What Jerry didn't realize, what none of them seemed to remember, was that the Royland family's prestige wasn't built on their centuries-old name. It was built on me. Still, I decided to attend his welcome banquet. They rented out Stonewater Manor for the occasion, the most extravagant venue in the city. The elite of every industry filled the hall. As I entered, I caught sight of a few familiar faces, sons of other wealthy families I used to socialize with. "Alex," one of them sneered. "You still have the guts to show up after being kicked out? Don't you feel any shame?" "Yeah," another chimed in. "Look at this banquet. That's how you treat the real son. You were just a placeholder, and now you've got nothing." A third smirked. "Tell you what, come work for me. My company needs a doorman. You look great in uniform. I'll pay $8,000 a month." I let out a quiet laugh. No wonder your fathers keep their illegitimate sons around. Even they'd be better than you idiots. Their faces turned red, and just as one of them lunged forward, Jerry appeared, forcing them to back off. My father took the stage, beaming for the crowd. "Thank you all for coming. Tonight, we celebrate the return of our long-lost son, Jerry. From this day forward, the Royland family will make up for all he's lost." Applause filled the room. Jerry stepped onto the platform, dressed to impress. He carried himself with practiced confidence, though the stiffness in his posture betrayed his inexperience. He looked straight at me, his voice full of false magnanimity. "Although my brother isn't a biological Royland, he has worked hard for many years. I'll allow him to stay with the company if he wishes." He turned toward me with a smile. "Brother, stop being angry with Mom and Dad." A murmur spread through the crowd. Eyes turned to me, some mocking, others pitying. I smirked. "No thanks. I'm not short on money." Jerry's face hardened. "Maybe not, but I am. I went through hell out there, but I never stopped learning. I'm ready to take over now. Brother, stay and work for me." My parents joined in immediately. "Alex, you shouldn't hold grudges. The family raised you all these years. It's time you repay that kindness." I arched an eyebrow. "Repay you? I spent 10 years dragging the Royland name from mediocrity to the top of the city. Isn't that enough repayment? I laughed, a sharp edge in my tone. Work for you? I only work for myself. If your boss can't keep up, that's not my problem. You taught me that yourself, father. My father's face turned ashen. The relatives took their cue, their voices like buzzing flies. Listen to him, still so arrogant. He forgets he's nothing without the Roylands. Jerry's too soft. He should have thrown him out already. Jerry stood there, his chest puffed up, a smug gleam in his eyes. I laughed again. Don't bother. I'll save you the trouble. From this moment on, I have nothing to do with the Royland family. Alex, my father barked, then sighed. Don't make us do this the hard way. Your attitude needs to be fixed. Then go ahead, I said calmly. Announce it. Tell the world Jerry is now the head of the Roylands. I took a step back, my voice ringing across the hall. Because I quit. As I walked out, I sent a single mass message, one simple statement. Effective immediately, I am no longer associated with Royland Industries. The air behind me erupted into chaos. Jerry shouted, Dad, he's being ridiculous. But before he could finish, phones began ringing across the hall. My father's, my uncle's, my cousin's, all at once. What? My father blurted. And C Group just terminated the contract? They'll only work with Alex Royland from now on. The banquet hall dissolved into chaos. It wasn't just the Royland family panicking. Every business partner present had just received the same notification. Contracts with the Royland Group, from investors to suppliers and banks, were being abruptly voided. Each message said the same thing. They would recognize only one person's authority, mine, Alex Royland, and would follow me wherever I went. In seconds, my father's complexion turned the color of chalk. He staggered, pointing at me as I walked away. Bring him back. Now, he shouted. Jerry, puffing up with self-importance, sneered. Why should we dance to his tune? I can handle everything he can. Let me take over. My father exhaled heavily, his patience gone. You? Don't make me laugh. The celebration dissolved into disorder. Later, I sat at the bar, turning a glass of wine between my fingers, amused by the thought of their panic back home. Felix found me, shaking his head with a grin. You really went all out tonight. Everyone's talking about you. Oh, what's the consensus? That I'm ruthless? Plenty are saying that, sure. But none dare say you're incompetent. You've got them rattled. I smirked. They forced my hand. I didn't start this war, but they shouldn't have mistaken silence for weakness. If I couldn't have peace, neither could they. Felix nodded. Still, something's off. Why did Jerry pop up out of nowhere demanding the company? Doesn't it feel staged? I don't know yet, but I do know he's not as clueless as he acts. Let him run things for a while. Reality will teach him better than I can. Felix nudged me, lowering his voice. Heads up, she's coming. I glanced up and saw Amelia Vaughn striding toward us. My smile went cold. She's not here for me. The engagement between our families is still technically alive, remember? She's supposed to marry Jerry. Felix raised an eyebrow. If she were really that short-sighted, she wouldn't have survived this long at the top. And, yep, she's headed straight for you. Amelia stopped beside me, unreadable as ever. We need to talk. There's nothing left to say, I replied calmly. Your new fiancé is the one who needs your attention right now. Felix slipped away. Amelia sat beside me, poured herself a drink, then looked at me with quiet resolve. I know you're angry. That day, I wanted to tell you to end the engagement, so we could get married instead. But you hung up before I could explain. Married? I laughed softly. Amelia, don't insult my intelligence. If that were true, you'd have stood by me from the start. I waited a week and heard nothing. And now, suddenly, you want to talk about marriage? Don't make me a fool. I leaned closer. Let's be honest, you were calculating. You came back only after realizing Jerry wouldn't survive 5 minutes in my shoes. Her face froze. See? I thought so, I said, finishing my drink. I chuckled bitterly. I suppose I should feel honored to still be useful to you. But, Amelia, I was born unwilling to let anyone pull my strings. Neither you nor Jerry were ever my only choice. That one line cracked her calm mask. Her eyes blazed, but I'd already turned to leave. She grabbed my arm. Can't you just give me a chance? A chance for what? I asked quietly. For you to decide which of us benefits you more? I pulled free and walked away. Still, she didn't stop. For the next few days, she was everywhere. Flowers on my desk, small gifts, waiting outside my office in the morning, standing across the street when I left at night. Finally, I confronted her. What is this supposed to be, Amelia? I'm pursuing you, she said, voice steady. Alex, we've known each other for over 10 years. I'll admit, when you were revealed as the wrong son, I hesitated. But now I know, it's you I want. Not the name, not the company. You. Her gaze was unwavering. She wasn't lying. And truthfully, she was the kind of woman any man would notice. Beautiful, composed, and dangerously smart. We were compatible. But love had no place in the kind of game I was playing. I couldn't afford distractions. Amelia, I said, it's useless. I'm not a Royland anymore. I don't even know who my real family is. She shook her head. That doesn't matter. You're still you, and that's who I want. She stepped closer and wrapped her arms around me. I didn't move. When she finally let go, she whispered, I'll prove I mean it. All right, I said with a faint smile. I'll be waiting. Don't let me down. She left, radiant with hope. I hadn't accepted her, but I hadn't rejected her either. Sometimes, keeping the bridge intact was the smarter choice. Meanwhile, the Roylands were sinking fast. My assistant came in laughing. You'll love this. Jerry actually called MC's headquarters to announce he'd been fired, and he was taking over. They blacklisted him on the spot. Did he really think deals were made that easily? Within 3 days, company after company publicly cut ties with Royland Industries. My father finally broke. When I arrived at my office that morning, his car was waiting out front. He hurried toward me, desperate. Alex, please come back. We can't hold out anymore. You grew up with us. We took care of you. They made a mistake, that's all. Be the bigger man. I smirked. Didn't you call me just an employee? Tell Jerry to come kneel and beg me himself. Maybe then I'll consider it. I walked past him into my building. This company, my company, was built from nothing while I was still slaving away at Royland Industries. They knew what I was capable of. Yet the moment their real son appeared, they let him and everyone else treat me like dirt. I'm not vindictive, but I believe in balance. Everything I earned for them over the years was payment enough. Now, I was simply returning the favor, restoring things to how they were before I ever showed up. Was that really so unfair? My father went home fuming after our last encounter, and 2 days later, both he and Jerry showed up at my office. The place was bright and spotless, a sharp contrast to their strained faces. Jerry's expression was tight with resentment until my father jabbed him in the ribs. Well, didn't you have something to say? Go on. Jerry glared at me, his voice grudging. Brother, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said those things. I came to ask you to return. I couldn't help laughing. You're asking me to come back? Let's be realistic, I continued. Hiring a CEO of my caliber would cost millions a year, plus stock options. So, what are you offering me? How much equity? Jerry's jaw tightened. His fists turned white, and I could tell he remembered my warning. The Royland name was worth nothing without me. Still, he forced the words out. I'll give you 20% of the company shares. That should be enough. Once upon a time, I owned 60. Now he expected me to crawl back for a fraction of that? I smiled faintly. If I stepped in, I could triple the company's worth in a year. But tell me, Jerry, why would I bother? He snapped. Because you're a Royland too. Mom and Dad raised you. Are you really going to stand by while they lose everything? This is your fault anyway. If you hadn't walked away, none of this would have happened. I stared at him coldly. So now I'm the villain? Before I could speak further, my father shoved him. Watch your mouth. How could this be Alex's fault? Apologize. Then he turned to me, tone softening. Alex, he's just angry. We'll give you all the shares, 60%, just like before. Jerry's face went pale. Dad. Then I'll have nothing. You searched for me all these years just to throw me away again? What am I supposed to be in this family? I met his eyes. Unlucky, I said quietly. Tell me something. Who found you? Who told you to come back and challenge me for the company? Panic flickered in his expression. Don't twist things. I came back because I'm their real son. The company was mine to begin with. If I'd been the one raised in this house, I wouldn't have turned out worse than you, he went on bitterly. What's so special about you anyway? If you'd lived the life I did in the countryside, You wouldn't have lasted a week. I smiled, unimpressed. Still not willing to admit the truth. I turned to my father. You don't even know how he ended up here, do you? He froze. I'd long known I wasn't his biological child, but I'd always wondered why this so-called real son appeared out of nowhere, why he immediately knew about my shares, and why he was so desperate for the inheritance. Someone had orchestrated the whole thing. You've heard the saying, when two tigers fight, the hunter wins? So tell me, father, who's the hunter here? He went silent. The realization hit him hard. I'm not coming back, I said at last. You have two options, sell me the company or watch it fall apart. Your choice. That was my final word. Jerry slammed the desk. You're bluffing. You wouldn't dare. But we both knew I would. I only smiled and motioned toward the door. As my father dragged a furious Jerry out of my office, their shouting echoed down the corridor. I even heard the sharp sound of a slap. Sooner or later, they'd realize I hadn't been bluffing. 3 days later, my father was back, clutching the signed transfer papers. The Roylans were broke, and the vultures circling them had started to show their faces. When I returned to the company building, my uncle nearly choked at the sight of me. What are you doing here? You have no place here anymore. My father brushed past him. He's here for the acquisition. My uncle gaped. Acquisition? The company's already ruined. How can he possibly acquire it? He's a nobody we threw out. I smirked. Maybe I'm a nobody, but the Vaughns aren't. Jerry stiffened. That's my engagement. I corrected lightly. She chose me. I patted his cheek. You still don't get it, do you? It was me who made this family powerful. And it's me who can destroy it. Remember that, Jerry. I hold your fate in my hands. Jerry stumbled back, eyes wide. My uncle said nothing. Within a week, the acquisition was complete. It wasn't difficult. I simply reabsorbed the assets and clients who had followed me out the door. A transaction from my left hand to my right, and now I controlled 80% of the company. At the victory party, everyone was celebrating. But I noticed Jerry sneaking off. I sent someone to tail him. A few minutes later, my uncle followed. They met in the stairwell, voices rising in anger. You promised me wealth and power, Jerry shouted. Now everything's gone, my money, my name, everything. My uncle snapped back. You're the reason we failed. He makes one call, and the world bends over backwards for him. But you can't do a thing right. I was a fool for bringing you back. I should never have switched you at birth. Jerry froze, then lunged at him. You what? You let me rot in that miserable place while that bastard got to live my life? I'll kill you. They fought like wild animals, forgetting the security camera recording everything above them. Minutes later, the video was projected onto the big screen in the banquet hall. Guests screamed. My parents rushed upstairs, livid. My father struck my uncle across the face. You switched my son, my mother screamed, clawing at him. You destroyed our family. The scene collapsed into chaos until security and the police arrived. At the station, the truth came out. My uncle had been eaten alive by envy of my father's wealth, his perfect marriage, his newborn son. So, he had ordered the newborn swapped. Also, he could watch his brother's child suffer, while his own son enjoyed a stolen life. It was his idea of revenge, and it had finally devoured them all. He never imagined that the boy he dragged back from the countryside, me, would one day outshine everyone in the Royland family. My success drove him mad. Desperate to take me down, he brought back his real nephew, Jerry, hoping to replace me. But Jerry was useless, incapable of holding on to what I had built. When the truth came out, the evidence was undeniable. My family pressed charges, and my uncle ended up in prison. My mother swore she'd never forgive him. Jerry panicked, throwing himself at my parents' feet, begging for mercy. But it was too late. Their hearts had already shattered. Knowing he'd helped ruin our family, they gave him a small apartment and a bit of money, then threw him out. He stood outside, screaming about how my parents were blind for choosing a bastard over their real son. I couldn't help but laugh. I had only ever tolerated him because of our blood connection, but now that he'd been disowned, he still dared to insult me? That was the last straw. I ordered my men to rough him up and take the deed to his apartment. I moved him into a cramped studio in the suburbs, barely a fraction of what he'd had before. After a few more lessons, he finally learned to keep quiet. Once everything was in order, I could finally breathe again. I planned a trip with Felix to unwind. At the airport, Amelia suddenly appeared, breathless from running. After all the help I gave you, you're just leaving me behind to go on vacation alone? Felix scoffed. Alex is free to do whatever he wants. Since when did he become your property? She fumbled for words. No, I didn't mean it like that. I cut her off. Amelia, you knew from the start it was my uncle who brought him back. You knew everything they planned, yet you said nothing. You let me walk straight into their trap. And then, after it all blew up, you call me, stay silent when I talk about breaking up and suddenly start chasing me again? Was that part of your strategy too? That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Something didn't add up. Amelia had always been calculated, calm, never impulsive. Her behavior had been too strange. So I questioned my uncle again and he cracked. He admitted someone had confronted him, warning him not to harm me. There was only one person who could pull that off so quietly, and only one who would care enough to do it. Amelia. She confessed, her voice steady. It's true. Our whole relationship started as a game. We were best friends, but also rivals. You were always in control, and I wanted to see you fall just once, to make you come to me. When I found out what your uncle was planning, I left the evidence on your console table, hoping you'd see it. But you came home and passed out on the couch. Believe it or not, I was worried about you. Her explanation made sense. But it didn't change anything. I just shook my head and walked through security without looking back. Amelia's eyes were red. Felix glanced at me. You're really not taking her with you? No, I said calmly. Women like her chase harder when you walk away. If I give in now, she'll think I'm easy. I refused to let her have that satisfaction again. Felix burst out laughing. You really are a master at this. I smiled faintly. Not a master, just someone who understands people. None of them, not Amelia, not my family, ever truly earned a place in my heart. Maybe now they'll start trying. I'm only teaching her to understand herself. When I finally arrived in Paris, Felix ran off with a blonde the moment we landed, leaving me to explore alone. I sat in a small square, letting a street artist sketch me. When he finished, someone else handed me the portrait, a familiar face smiling faintly. A handsome gentleman like, you must be pleased, no? I looked at the sketch, then at her. Not bad. Maybe a 6 out of 10. Amelia tilted her head. Then let me guide you through Paris. I'll earn the other 4 points. What do you say? I took her hand, smiling. Deal. She pulled me close, and together we wandered through the golden streets of Paris. Everything I want, I will always get for myself. Because in the end, everything is and always will be under my control.